I'd like to invite Puan Cynthia Gabriel, the Executive Director of C4 Center, to give a short presentation on the C4 position paper on the OSA. Dipersilakan.
My task is to unveil to you a research project that we have carried out in attempting to convince policymakers on the importance of an information framework in our country. Apart from being a C4 Center Director, I am also a City Council member of Petaling Jaya, and I can first-hand vouch and tell you the importance of information to residents dealing with municipal projects, the importance of information flow when it comes to knowing what gets built around your homes, what kind of information local government provides to you, or the lack of it, and how information has become such a powerful tool of government.
That it has actually shielded so many acts of corruption, as we have heard Tan Sri Simon already espouse. We're not just talking of the scale of 1 MDB, we're not just talking about death camps being unveiled, all this because of the secret culture in which is so pervasive in this country. We're talking also about highways, concessionaire projects. We're talking about everything that has an easy chop that goes sulit on almost every government document. So C4 had launched a research project. The researcher is here, and I'm very proud to say that we have done some in-depth study on the OSA itself, because in wanting to launch an information framework, we need to look at where the blocks are. And the blocks are both in terms of legislation. It's not just the Official Secrets Act, although the Official Secrets Act is overarching in terms of protecting information and creating that divide between government and ordinary people. Of course, we all know about the Sedition Act. Now we know about the Prevention of Terrorism Act. We had the ISA before. So it's a whole package of everything that has created this culture of fear. And the other thing that we do need to address is the culture of fear, the culture of self-censorship, the culture of not being sure if asking for information is even a fundamental right. Well, it is. And this is what we're here today to assert that point. So let me just take you through what we have done. You don't have yet a copy of the report, because so you can pay attention to what I say. We will unveil the report shortly and give you a copy of it. But the first part is breaking down the Official Secrets Act, looking at the different sections of how secrets are classified, the OSA and freedom of information. Now, very interesting, because freedom of information is actually in existence in 2 Pakatan Rakyat states, in Penang and in Selangor. Now, we will hear from the Selangor speaker later if the Freedom of Information Act has actually promoted transparency in government or not. Then the global progress towards freedom of information. Is Malaysia regressing? Is Malaysia resisting an information framework? And a stakeholders' experience, because in the process of doing the research, there was interviews conducted with the Auditor General, with the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, with media, and we have Jahaba today speak to us about his own experience as a journalist when it comes to accessing information, as well as various other actors. And the link between transparency and development goals. And finally, recommendations towards an information framework, and whether we should review, repeal, or just keep the OSA. Now, the OSA, I will leave this to Stephen to break it down further, but this is what the OSA is about in a nutshell. It's actually an act that just classifies secret documents and how government documents and government information is actually kept as secret. So Section 2 of the OSA actually includes cabinet documents, State Executive Council documents, documents concerning national security, defense, and international relations. And apart from what's already in the schedule, there's also any other official document, information and material as may be classified as top secret, secret, confidential, or restricted. And we also have official, which is defined in Section 2 as relating to those in public service. Now, as I was saying, these are the 4 categories: top secret, secret, confidential, and restricted. Then there's other categories: subversive, espionage, sabotage, human weakness, extremism. Now, I will leave you to actually go through the details of this, but it can get quite disturbing, because almost everything then is considered secret. Even the minutes of MPPJ meeting is secret. So taxpayers like you don't really know what is being discussed at local government level, definitely at state government level, and at federal level. Okay, the OSA and freedom of information. In our federal constitution, Article 5, Article 10, and Article 12 have actually quite clearly espoused our right to know and our right to be informed. Article 5 is not merely a question of the right to subsistence, it is also a right to a quality of life and dignity, and in order to achieve this, we must have a right to inform ourselves. And in order to feed into our decision-making process, we need to know and to have information. Article 10 is, of course, the right to freedom of speech and expression that we have many a time spoken and demanded our governments to give us that fundamental right to enable us to associate, to express ourselves, and most of all, to also know and to be informed, and in order for us to express ourselves meaningfully. Article 12, which is the right to education, is not just the right to formative education, it is also a right to continuous education. And that means a right to be informed and a right to be able to grow as rational, as comprehensive, contextual citizens that's able to make decisions in elections, on different public policy matters, and so on. Now in ASEAN, there's all this hype about ASEAN recently because Malaysia just assumed chairmanship. You wouldn't believe that even in the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, where ASEAN is comprised of many governments that don't really support human rights, it says every person has the right to opinion and expression, including freedom to hold opinions without reference and to seek, receive, and impart information. In the Commonwealth, Head of Government's Declaration, the right to information has been further entrenched. And of course, in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration for Human Rights, 1948, it is very clearly stated that the right to know is a fundamental part of the right to expression. Now, where are we in terms of the global progress towards FOI, or freedom of information? In 1990, we only had 15 countries that had signed on to the FOI. In 2015, we have 103 countries. And that's quite a remarkable progress. In ASEAN, we have 3 countries that have signed on and that have adopted important measures to enact a Freedom of Information Act. We have Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines. All the other countries are grey, black, means they have not actually signed on. So Malaysia is, of course, in the dark. We have the Official Secrets Act, no Freedom of Information Act at federal level, but we have an interesting challenge at 2 states levels. Vietnam has a constitutional guarantee. Believe it or not, Vietnam has a constitutional guarantee on the right to information. But whether that has improved their own human rights is for another discussion for another day. So this is perhaps a very important starting point for us to also ask our governments where really is the commitment to access to information. So these are the stakeholders that we interviewed. These are some of the points where we discovered that 75% of Malaysians wanted more stories to be covered on corruption because they believe that it's it's a new thing. Social media has actually opened up areas in which corruption, complaints, articles written on poor governance and so on is growing, and they want more. Self-censorship of government-linked media has been so prevalent in our country. And of course, it's through not just through the OSA, but the PPPA, Sedition Act, formerly the Internal Security Act, and so on. And ISA has been used as a shield by government officials to hide the sins of corruption. So it has created this culture of fear that we experience today. Of course, the other thing is many are very critical of law enforcement agencies, including the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission. Are they proving their mettle? Do they have sufficient laws to actually carry out their tasks, and so on and so forth? And can transparency in government further help push MACC's work? So we have an MACC representative talk to us later, and that will be an interesting time for you to ask questions on ongoing investigations. How come we don't know? How does the public get informed, and so on? And freer access to information allows opposition. The role of opposition policymakers is also very, very important in being able to blow the whistle on potential corruption scandals before it becomes too late, as we have seen now in the case of 1MDB, in the case of the National Feedlot Corporation, in the case of the Scorpion submarines, and so on. And interestingly, the Auditor General had said that in the course of his work, he is empowered by the National Audit Act, 1957. So he can actually get information regardless of the fact that the OSA is there. But he has other obstacles because he does need permission from the Finance Ministry and so on to investigate government-linked companies, KLIA2, 1MDB, and so on. So there are various other blocks for the Auditor General. So the link between transparency and government goals. This is just to convince how transparency, fighting corruption actually promotes better management and procurement. It helps government perform better in controlling corruption. It does improve the FDI, or does it not? Competitiveness will definitely become a natural advantage to those who sincerely want to compete to get government contracts, to get to actually make applications in tenders for government and so on. Because what we're dealing with here is not just a pervasive culture of secrecy, but one that has helped to promote patronage politics. We all know that crony politics is what rules our country. And we know that cronies are very powerful. I was in a lunch discussion yesterday, and we were told about how cronies fight to actually get important contracts because these people are in very powerful positions. And this is what we're trying to beat. And this is how secrecy has actually helped to beat and to defeat competitiveness and human development indicators at the same time. So I will not go through everything. This is recommendations that we have put in the report for a new FOI regime. We can hear from Selangor later if some of these recommendations have already been adopted, and recommendations and amendments to the OSA. Now, the debate from you is very important because we hope that some of the MPs that are here today and every member of parliament will get a copy. We invited every member of parliament from Barisan Nasional as well, but unfortunately none of them are here. I see many other opposition MPs here, so we hope you will carry the battle to actually look at whether the OSA should be repealed, reviewed, or is there nothing that can be done about it? So it's very important debates that will actually feed into policy and law reform at parliamentary level. Thank you very much.